you capture the essence of that animal as quickly as you possibly can. So, you know, in many cases, if I have 2 to 3 days, I need to give you enough information in that time. You can get the proportions or the personality, the way you want to use your deal. But we were classically trained. Well, I'm not classically trained by any means. So, and in that, it was kind of an interesting scenario because most of the artists I admired, I knew were classically trained. They had degrees in art and everything else. And here I am a taxidermist, and I fall into this world, get some extremely lucky breaks along the way. And so I'm still working 2 jobs. I'm a taxidermist by day, and by night I'm a sculptor. And so we would go to these functions from the very high-end galleries that I was in Scottsdale, and people would say, what do you do for a living? Oh, I do taxidermy. And you could just see they put their hand down like, okay, taxidermy, okay. But I learned if I said taxidermy really fast, it just right, it's not like taxidermy. I would just spend the best sculptors that I admired the most were taxidermists because we had to know the animals from the inside out. That's how we did it. We sculpted mannequins from the skeleton or measurements from the skeleton. So, when I got my first big break, I went back to college, took the college course of sculpture, just to kind of see if it would parallel what I was already doing, and it was, oh my God, I got to introduce myself. So I do, and he goes, where's your work? And I go, you're looking at me. I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. And he said, give me your phone number. And so 2 days later, he calls me and says, I will make you my feature artist in one of my 3 galleries. I need one artist in there full time. I guarantee you'll make this much money a month in sales, or I will pay you, yada, yada, yada. So from I overnight went from a taxidermist to a full-time artist. Thanks for him. And he never had to pay me a dime because the sales were so good, and the staff was so amazing that we just hit the ground running. That was 27 years ago here in Sculpt. So that's why I'm here. So, are you guys ready to meet the star of the show? 2 stars, actually. Let's see. Get my foot. Here we go. Look at this. Welcome, Billy with Runnin W and what's the guy's name again? Luke, the barn owl. Now Luke is kind of spooky. I'm gonna give him his space. This is your chair, Billy. You doing okay? Yeah. Just gotta settle down. Yeah. So I won't talk real super loud right now. But look at that face. Isn't that amazing? I know. It's just remarkable. So Billy runs Runnin W Wildlife Rehab Center. And I'm telling you, if there was a shrine to be built for anybody that I know, it would be Billy. The guy works so hard. And he does this all by donation. We have the donation thing here, right? Okay. So here's an example. My brother was here visiting 2 weeks ago. A little javelina got hit in front of the gallery. A little javelina. Good news though. Small Billy. Bleeding from his nose, disoriented, kind of head injury. He got it to where it's going to be released. It survived. But he's doing this out of his own time and his own money. 24/7. Is that an exaggeration?
No, that's true.
Yeah. So the phone rings, or he gets animals like in the spring you were telling me you'll get hummingbirds that have to be fed every how many minutes?
Every 15 to 20 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes, so no sleep. If he doesn't do it, they die. So think of the stress that he's got. So I ask any of you, please be generous tonight. Help Billy out. Help the animals. So Billy, let me give you this if you think it's okay. Yeah. How many animals do you have?
On for permanent, about 75
animals that cannot be released, just like this little guy. So, I mean, obviously it's got a wing injury. So what do? You give it a home. If it survives, you give it a home, and that's where Billy is.
And then we get about 500 plus during baby season.
Yeah. It's amazing. Wow. Can I call him Barney for his nickname? You can. Barn Owl, Barney. Yeah. Okay, so this is why. So when I took my college course in sculpting, it was like, okay, students, just get a photo, take it home. Take it home, sculpt a masterpiece from this photo you get. Well, it doesn't work because, look at this. I mean, having something right in front of you versus a photo, sometimes I'm able to actually touch and handle and then sculpt. But here lies the pressure because I have very little time to work on it. So, I'm going to start. So, who wants to be one of the official timers here? On the clock. Time me. Okay. All right. So what time is it? 4:07. Okay, good. Now, so let me show you how this starts. A lot of people say, well, how do you get the proportions on the animals the way you do? I can't obviously go over and measure them. So what I do is base it on. What is that? Let's turn your mic off, maybe. Oh, I'll get too close to this. Sorry. So anyway, I'll base everything on the head. So what we do is measure at arm's length. I'm measuring the length of his head. Now, I'm going to measure with that as the length of his head. I'm going to measure how long. Because how long his wings are. 1, 2, 3.5. Remember that? 3.5. Length of the wing. Length of the body from the point of the shoulder. 1, 2, 3. And that includes his tail. So if I can sneak over here, I'll show you. No, I don't want to. Anyway, so that's going to tell me how I'll start with his head, build the armature first, start with his head, and then I'll start sculpting based on that scale. Okay, so we ready? All right, so these guys know that Ace Hardware sells armature material. That's what this is for a sculptor. So what we use is basic plumbing fixtures because this clay we use is not dry. It has to have a support. If I'm getting too close to it, though, let me know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or it doesn't. So, I'm going to quietly as I can. So I've got to build a support that's going to hold this clay up, right? So, plumbing fixture. So this is going to be basically going from under his tail, this rod itself, and this T will be right where, see this wing where it folds, right here on the shoulder? That's what this T will be. Now also, this is adjustable by, if I pull this pin, I tilt this back, so I can adjust the angle and things like that. I might just pull this small back up a bit. I've been studying him for how many weeks now, and it's really cool to see him outside of his enclosures, and now I can see him a lot better. So his face is stunning. So one thing I want to notice, have you guys noticed, look at his face. How all those really soft white feathers are really open and porous. So those allow the sound waves to come into his face. Now, the dark arch-shaped feathers you see around his head.
Whoops.
See that dark ring of feathers around his head? Those feathers are solid, much more dense. They go all the way to the skull. So in essence, it'd be like you putting a satellite dish behind your ears. His ear ports are just in front of those solid feathers. So the sound waves come in, they get directed to these big satellite dish cones and direct the sound waves to his ears. Plus, his ears are asymmetric. So he can triangulate where a mouse is from the different angles of the sound waves. It's amazing. How they love every feather.
How long are they lived?
It depends. Like a great horned owl can live 30, 35 years. Probably in the 20s. Little smaller owls, like screech owls, about 14.
So what I'm also going to guess now is his face, the mass. I'm going to estimate it 3 inches. So if I know his wing's 3.5 inches from the shoulder to the length of that,
to show that
primary,
there's still
that's
humanity,
okay, so
even with the position
right now. So I can
that
just kind
God
of
placed
see
me in.
that as I'm looking.
Why did Moses smite the rock? Why did he get that frustrated?
This is going to be kind of a tricky one. I've never done a live stream before where I've actually tried to include a wing in it, because typically just doing a head in an hour and a half, that's pushing it. But I'm going to try to really push it today. I'm going to build the whole armature for his tail, his head, and one wing. Okay, he's doing pretty good. Yeah, yeah. So if I do anything that irritates him, let me know. Okay, so this is my armature wire. Mike, where are you? Can you hold this for me, please? Okay, so I'm going to pull off. This is going to be his head. Okay? Now, get that thing out. Okay, so this is his shoulder. This is going to be his head. Now you'll see what this is going to be for in just a minute. Now, what I want to do is I want to be able to make this all adjustable as I work on him. If I want his neck sticking up higher, just put it this way. If I want to turn his head, I can turn his head. It's all adjustable. So to do that, I'm going to come in here and loosely wrap around here. Okay, so that's his head. Now, his tail. So his tail, I'm going to have to estimate on this. Let's see, it was 3 1/8 for his tail to his shoulder. Let's just make it 9 inches. Okay. Which will also be adjustable. If you guys have any questions along the way, please don't be shy. Okay, so let's say that's 9 inches. Let's see. Point of the shoulder, tip of the tail, all adjustable. Nine inches. All right, perfect. Okay, now here's the hard part: the wing. How in the heck do you build enough wires to support? Let's just say it's the full-fledged wing on the right-hand side. So if the wing was 3.5 heads, 10 inches, 10.5, something like that. But I also have to accommodate for the humerus, the ulnar radius bones that you can't see. And this is where having been a taxidermist kind of helps me, because I can see those bones. Let's see. Oh, he's there. Looks like 1 1/4. So that's 3. Let's just make it 4 inches. All right. So the ulna of the humerus, ulnar radius, 4 inches. All right. So now I need 4, 8, 9, 10, 18, 20. Okay, 20 inches of wire for each feather. So this is how I do it. There's 1 inch. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna give 6, 5, 6. So what's our time? What? Really? 9 minutes? Cool. All right. Now, this is what's going to hold up the wing exactly right here. So, I'm sure good on that, Mike. Thank you. Put my glasses on. So let's do, I think I'll do his right side here. Okay, so that fits in there. So now where I have to establish, let's turn around where you can see. But it's kind of clunky now, but this is all going to be very functional. I have to make sure this does not come out on me. And I also have to make sure that it doesn't go past the halfway point because I have another wing to put in there. Let me tighten this down. So Billy, talk to us about some of your permanent residents, like the coyote, your recent coyote, and how you ended up with it and the story.
So we, okay, you got it? Oh, so we ended up with a coyote that got confiscated by the Game and Fish Department. It has, one leg was broken in 3 separate places and chewed off its paw. And the other leg, front leg, had a bend, a 90-degree bend in its carpal. So we ended up having to remove the one leg. Unfortunately, there was no repercussions for the guy who was holding it because he had it for 4 months without proper medical attention. So it's non-releasable, so we provide a home for the rest of its life.
Yeah. Okay, so now I attached the wires with these 2 screws so it doesn't come out. Now I've got my wing. I have to now establish the ulnar radius and the humerus. Humerus and ulnar radius. So we said 4 inches.
And you thought this was going to be easy.
Yeah. 4 inches. 4 inches. Now, there's no set formula for building armatures. This is all self-taught. You cannot believe the archaic armatures that are out there. And again, the one thing that what I found was in building most armatures, most artists trying to convey movement or anything else would work with a really stiff armature that wasn't designed for all this flexibility and then end up with a really stiff piece. So being a taxidermist and thinking, how can I replicate the bones and how can I get the joints articulated to where it moves just like that animal would move? This is how I've done it. Okay. Now, sorry. So the wing comes off the body with the humerus. Okay. That bends at the humerus radius. And then right here is the wrist that you see on his arm coming down like this. Now I have all those bones there, and I have feathers. These are going to be the primary feathers. So we figured, what was it, 3.5, 3, 6, 9, 10.5 inches. And I'm going to add a little bit of clay here so it'll make it like 10 inches. didn't hurt as bad as it sounded. Okay, so now I've got all these feathers. Now I need to know how to support these feathers, right? Well, here they are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feathers. Now, if I want to make him flying, I can just bring that out, bring this out, and then I'll build more armature off of here, and then I have a flying bird. So this is all flexible in the field, ready to go, just the way I want. All right? Now, the fun part. So what I did also notice was that his longest primary on the other side would be the longest feather, and it came up, the last primary came up halfway into his tail. So if that tail's 9 inches, from here, that's about right. He looks longer than that. I'm going to give him a little fudge here. Okay, so the longest. Okay. So that means I need a taper from this feather to halfway to his tail on the last one. Okay, there they are. Now, you can see how that's kind of visually helping me map out what I'm going to need to do. And what's really cool is if I want to flare his primaries more, I can. If I want to group them and tuck them behind his tail, I can. It's all there, basically. This is the shortest. And there. All right, so armature. Now, what are we missing? Legs. Okay, so let's make some legs. I think we're good. All right, he's got 4 toes, 4 pieces of wire. All right. These will be his feet. Okay. Now, what's the terminology for the 2 in the front, 2 in the back? The toes. Do you remember? Zygodactyl. Remember that when you go home tonight, right? So they can, but they can also, can't they also flip one around or something? Yeah, they can move the back to the front, which is pretty unique for now, for any bird of prey actually. So as crude as that looks, that will serve the purpose as its leg, and I'll trim these off later. But that is his leg. Okay, so now the fun part, sculpting. So, Mike, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand you these tools. I don't need any of these. I'll put them in that bag there, or in the box. Questions, anybody? What's for dinner? Yes.
Is the owl male or female?
It's a male. Females are larger.
Where did you say that yours were? I can't find them.
You can't. You can't see them. They're buried under those feathers. But the main thing is those solid feathers come behind the port of the ear. And it's just a port. It's not like what we have here. It's just a hole in the cranium, isn't it? Yeah. Just a little hole. Hole in the head. Okay, how's our time? 18. Armature in 18 minutes. Wow, that's cool. All right, now, so, one more thing. Oop, I'm going to keep doing that tonight. You'll find out what this is for in just a second. This isn't there to pick up radio waves. Okay? Now, so, this is my clay. It's actually a plastiline. It's not a water-based clay. It's oil-based. So it's designed never to cure. If it's being waxed, if it's cold, it's very hard. You can't use it. And so we use turkey roasters or the sun or whatever you can use to keep it nice and pliable. So I've been brewing this. Look at looking at that. Like, ooh, is that dinner?
What an aroma.
Doesn't smell like dinner. Okay, so we estimated, or I estimated his head to about 3 inches. He's got a great view there. Anybody want to feel what the clay feels like? Okay, I'll pass around a chunk of it. It's nice and soft right now. A little sticky, but it won't hurt you. Okay, so I come around here. Yeah, it feels like Play-Doh, doesn't it? It probably is. They just charge us more for it. Okay. Down there. It's Chavant. C-H-A-V-A-N-T. Red. A lot of people think it's made in Sedona because it's red. It's made in Red Bank, New Jersey. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to try to do this where you guys can see what I'm doing. Now you can kind of see basically a roughed in blob. And I got to hold this in place. The last thing I want this to do is rattle around. So I'm going to put a temporary piece in there to hold it in place. Now, so having been a taxidermist, I have to kind of envision the skull because that's how I'm going to work, basically. So let's say we said 3 inches. Look at that. 3 inches. All right. Now, his eyes are a little higher above center than that 3-inch part. So let's do this. Upper brow. That's just going to establish kind of the width and the height of his eyes. Now let's put the beak in. And that, all those feathers on his face hide a big, powerful beak that is surprisingly large. I mean, their main prey is mice, right, Billy? Yeah. It's hard to imagine what it looks like with all those feathers on there, but I'm just kind of figuring out here. You tired? He's relaxing. Cool. That's perfect. Okay.
Knows he's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. So what's his roommate's name? He does have a roommate. Barney.
Leia. Yeah, I think it's Leia.
Leia.
Yeah, because people just name them after Star Wars characters.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. Okay.
For those who have just gathered here, this is the world famous Ken Rowe doing a live sculpt of this beautiful barn owl right here.
I paid Mike to say that earlier. A lot of money.
It cost him $75.
Yeah.
Runnin W in case you haven't heard that.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, now. Wow, so beautiful. Pink Jeep Tours heard about this.
Make a tour.
So Billy, talk about your little bobcat.
Last year we were lucky enough, I guess, to get 2 bobcat kittens. We ended up losing one of them because they just didn't get the mother's milk at the time. So it was very touch and go for several months with the one. But we were able to turn it around. When they first came in, they were about 350 grams. After 2 months, they were about 640. We ended up giving it, what is it? Fortified plasma.
Oh, wow.
And then we gave him 2 separate fecal transplants. And it was able to save him, and now he's living fairly comfortably in Kenson. He looks healthy as all get out.
He likes me because he claimed me.
Yeah, well, you were one of the first people.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be a part of that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, once I have his eyes somewhat established, the beak, I'm going to start working on that heart-shaped, beautiful heart-shaped mask. So I have to tell you some of the stories we've had with some of our live sculpting sessions here. One time we decided to bring a wolf here. That was a really bright idea, right? So I hired this guy, has a wolf in Phoenix. He shows up. I'm going to do a life-size bust. So I practiced on this thing for months. We get the wolf here. He pulls up right here in this space. He backs up. The wolf crawls under the vehicle and never comes out. So I had to trust my memory, which is not good. Another time, a friend of mine was helping me, who is a doctor, an emergency room doctor. He's helping me like Mike is. All of a sudden, an ambulance pulls up right here. Somebody passed out in front of the gallery. They're doing everything short of CPR on this guy. And luckily, it was just a dehydration issue, but you never know what's going to happen.
Your skill makes people faint, so it's amazing.
$75 every time.
Ka-ching.
Yeah,
Racking it up tonight.
you've got it figured out.
It will all be donated, though.
Yes, yeah, we'll donate it to Billy. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm just going to go for a rough sketch of his head, and we're going to move on here in just a second.
Billy, do you have a lot of regular benefactors, or do you have fundraising?
Well, we do competitive grants. We do have some benefactors.
Always could use more.
Always could use more, yeah. What was the other question?
Fundraising.
Fundraising. Yeah, we do different events. It's kind of difficult with all the things going on just normally.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I'm able to do all the time, you know. But we do it.
And you could take all kinds of donations.
Yes. Yeah, we do take all kinds of donations. Food, you know, food's a big one.
Yeah.
So he does take all kinds of donations. He was saying food, your help,
Yeah.
cash donations,
And
always
then-
appreciated.
A little surprise for tonight that we have set aside a piece to help Billy tonight, where all the proceeds from tonight's sale will go to Billy's
Not all of it, right?
great cause.
Not
Well,
all of it.
most
Not
of
all
it.
of it, right?
Well, most of it, yeah, we have to pay the foundry and all that. But anyway, it's a barn owl I did years ago called If Walls Could Talk. And it's in the gallery hanging up in the tree room. You'll see when you go in. So if you're so tempted, you can help Billy out by ordering that piece. The one that's on the wall is not available. That's a customer that was gracious enough to let us use it. So it's inside the gallery if you're able to look at it.
So Billy, if somebody wanted to volunteer, what would they wind up doing?
A lot of cleaning. That's a big major part of everything. You know.
Well, there's always construction projects too you've got going too.
Oh yeah.
Habitat improvements, all those things. Now this clay is a little sticky when it's this warm, so it's kind of hard to work with. So I'm going to let this base sit a little while so I can do a little more refining on it.
Anybody back here get a chance to feel what he's working with right now?
So I mentioned before that I used to watch Gary Jenkins on TV with Ken Payne. And I love the art world for this reason right here. Gary walks into the gallery. I recognize him. And he says, I want to show in your gallery. And here he is, all these years later. That was 27 years ago.
How you doing, Ken?
You good, thank you.
Had to come by.
Absolutely, we're glad to have
Where
you.
are you guys from? Cornville. Cornville. Oh, I went to the one in Phoenix. The Wild at Heart
Southwest?
one.
Southwest?
Yeah, there's a Wild at Heart. I think.
Yeah,
And
Robinson.
then I do one I do in Alaska. Alaska Raptors or something like that. It's pretty cool. See some pictures.
Oh, nice.
So how many years have you been at it, Billy, in terms of your wildlife rehab? And what started it?
About
Where's the,
35 years. Where'd that mic go?
where did he go? Where's your assistant?
Oh, there you go. Thank you,
Oh,
Mike.
he's taking a break.
I tell you.
About 35 years.
35.
Yeah.
How is that? You look about 28.
Well, thank you. Another 75 bucks.
That'll cost you
Another 75.
Where are you located?
Cornville. Cornville.
Right down the street. Out here in Sedona, everybody says it's right down the street. 37 miles later.
Send back the. If anybody wants a brochure, we have some brochures. Oops.
By appointment,
Throwing me off with it.
by appointment visitors. Yeah.
We'll put it up here for now.
How far ahead would you have to make an appointment to go?
It just depends on what your availability is and what's going on with us. But normally, we're open from October to May, and then from May till October, we're closed doing all the rehab work. So we're not open to the general public doing tours during that.
Okay. So Gary paints the animals. Would he be able to take good photos out of your
Yeah,
place?
we could set something up.
For reference?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do something like that.
Okay. Huh?
Billy, what's your background education?
Well, I went to Cornell, Lab of Ornithology, and then I do continuing education. I have to do like veterinarians do and like vet techs do. I got to do 8 hours of continued education every 2 years. But so it's constant learning. You don't just stay stagnant and make sure of that.
And you have to do a lot of veterinary practicing yourself, don't you?
Yeah,
A lot of these animals.
basic animal husbandry, basic medical care. Because you know, if something comes in like a dove, you're not necessarily going to rush out and get the vet in. You're going to have to wrap the wing and do all the medical things that you need to do. And you have to know how to do that and know what you're looking at. And how to diagnose it.
Do you have
Saves the vets a lot of
X-ray
time.
equipment or anything like that?
No, we're working on the X-ray equipment, but we do have lots of incubators and the basic general equipment that you need. We're looking to get into getting the X-ray machines, but those are super duper expensive. But they are handy. It makes it that much easier to look at what's going on inside.
Okay, so I'm going to leave that face for now because it's really sticky. So now with this in the back of its head, I can move his face around anywhere I want without wiping this out. So it's kind of smooth right now just because it is so sticky, I can't really move it too much. But I'm thinking a position like this. And what's our time?
40.
40, all right, cool. Okay, so the rough rendition, let's go from here. Now, the body.
Oh, no, I was gonna, one thing I was gonna tell
How
everybody.
many pounds of clay will you finish with?
On a piece like this, probably about 6 to 8. Not very much, actually.
One thing to note too about barn owls is they don't have a voice box, so they can't hoot. It's more like an espresso machine exploding when they're doing their calls.
When I was working with them one day, I thought your sprinkler systems had a leak in it. I heard it.
It's just the air passing over.
Yeah.
You can't do this instead.
Process sculpting now.
Nah.
Have all that in the Netherlands.
Yes. This, it just stays with the piece, and then they make a mold of it. A foundry being big, make a mold of this, and then this has served its purpose. In fact, this will be destroyed in the molding process. They will have to cut the wings off and everything else to make that mold because there's so many undercuts. And so you get this back in a box. So what I do is I just recycle all this material, including the clay.
So sweet.
I know.
Once again, for those who just joined us in the back, this is the world famous Ken Rowe
This is going to cost me a fortune.
doing a live sculpture here with our lovely barn owl.
And Billy from Runnin W.
You take Visa, Mike?
Only gold cards.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got one.
And the owl's name is Luke. I am your father. No, just Luke.
From Runnin W. From Runnin W. So they know where it's from. Runnin W.
Isn't
Wildlife.
that face amazing? I mean, it's just incredible.
And this owl came from Runnin W Wildlife Center.
And this is Billy.
And this is Billy, who has the lovely Luke on his arm.
I was hoping we wasn't going to walk in front of my camera, but there's always one.
Always.
Always. My sound keeps going down.
So let's talk about tools. These tools that we use, a lot of them I just make my own. This is a store-bought tool from years ago, but I learned just by picking up items off the desert floor, sticks, branches, anything would work really well. So one day I'm in Montana, I'm working with this grizzly bear. Brutus was his name. He was about 750 pounds at the time. And so I was using one of my tools, and the guy that was in charge of him, the handler, looks like Billy. I said, well, what do you think Bruce would do if I handed him the end of his tool? I don't know, try it and see what he does. So I hand it to him like this, and he bites it off like a potato chip. Well, that's my favorite tool. It was made by a grizzly bear, so it makes great texture. Thanks to Brutus. What a face. No, that was you, Billy. I was not.
Did your arm get tired from thinking
Not
about it?
really. He only weighs like 600 grams, so it's a little over a pound.
I wouldn't be able to do that for very long. I did out.
It's like, yeah. It's all feathers.
And a beautiful thing it is.
Billy, did people just start bringing animals to you, or how did the whole thing get started?
Well, originally we started. My father and I started years and years ago, and we were trying to do something for small kids, like a petting type zoo. But then we moved to this other location that's in Cornville now. And at the time when we moved, so did out of Africa. And so we figured, well, if somebody wants to go to a zoo, they can just go to out of Africa. We would be much better suited in doing the rehab work because that's what's needed in the area. And so that's how we got into it.
Very good question.
And yes, people do call him the great Sculptor.
All right, so you can kind of see I'm roughing in just a silhouette. He's giving me his body. And I'm going to quickly, how's our time?
48.
Okay. I'm going to quickly move to the wing. The wing itself, I mean, that wing could be, if I were just to have a finished piece, probably 2 weeks of work just in a wing with all the feathers and so forth. So there's some white green in there. Actually, a nylon screen. Edwin did some big. Oh, there you go. And there's
And I'm sure you'll do okay.
and then the buck. You can kind of sense one, can't you?
Yeah, and it's getting darker now, so
Oh, will you get more active?
yeah, you should.
Oh, yeah, true.
You can see when it was earlier, he was all 4 or 5 miles.
So you got some ring-tailed cats. Well, tell the ring-tailed cat story.
So like,
Where's
so we got some ring-tailed cats
Hold on.
in this year. Well, actually, we got one ring-tailed cat. We got one. We started with one ring-tailed cat. Somebody had called us during Easter weekend, and it was up in Chino Valley. She got hit by a car. Her eye popped out. She had a broken jaw. So luckily, I was able to get a hold of my vet, and she came out. We popped the eye back in, and then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I heard a bunch of noise down there. Evidently, she was pregnant at the time, and she had 4 babies. Every single one of them super healthy. Normally, when ring-tailed cats are in captivity, they do go after their young. So we were very fortunate, and every single one made it and happy, healthy.
Very unusual.
Oh, and they're also the state mammal.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, and they're related to raccoons and kinkajous. They're the same thing.
Raccoon. Oh, I guess that would make sense. Yeah.
It's an ancient form of raccoon.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are reaching into their pockets for an extra donation for that story. So
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
So what do the ringtail cats do?
What do ringtail cats do?
Like, I always see them, like, out of
Mark,
Africa,
you're so good.
digging and stuff.
No, actually, ringtail. You're probably thinking something else. Ringtail cats are.
So they swim.
No. They're more arboreal type animals. So they usually be up in a tree, and they're nocturnal, strictly nocturnal. So you never see them because they're only out at night.
Someone's asked if we could raise the volume.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all your donations.
Yeah.
And Ken, that was your 50-minute timer that just went off.
It was
50-minute timer.
50. That's not bad.
So
Really,
you
50? Wow.
Here,
Okay.
Ken.
Okay, just get away.
Thank you so much.
You want
Yes,
to
thank you,
can
guys.
Can
This is
turn
really
the
great.
music, or is it going to squeal?
I mean, just think of this. I mean, I'm an animal lover beyond my words, but basically, think of the heart-wrenching word. I told Billy the other day, he's the most courageous person I've ever known. Because you don't know what's coming to the door, and most of the stories are horrific, like the coyote. But you put all that aside, you doctor them up, you do the best job you can, and then, unfortunately, you all that work in there, and you lose some of it.
Yeah.
And then the cycle repeats and repeats and repeats.
There's always one behind it.
Yes, probably more than one.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, that I could not do. It takes a special, very gifted person to do that and be faced with that every day, knowing, but this has to be rewarding. I mean, you wouldn't do it otherwise, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely rewarding, and you never know what you're going to get in.
Yeah.
So that's the other fun part. And we've handled pretty much everything except bears at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
We've had
Mhm.
mountain lions,
That's right, you had that little mountain lion that was roaming the streets of Cornville.
Yeah.
For weeks.
Yeah, now it's out of Africa.
Yeah.
Sage.
Sage.
Okay, so now I'm going to use these little feathers, or these little wires for my feathers. And I think I'm going to put it about right there. Yeah, okay. Now, this will be the furthest I've ever gotten on a bird in an hour and a half. Let me tell you.
Amazing like you.
Pardon me?
Amazing
Oh,
like
hey,
you.
there are you. I paid for compliments. You know, you heard that earlier, right?
I didn't know that.
Yes, $75. It used to only be 10.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
It's not
so
a
now
paid
you know.
commercial.
Yeah, exactly. What was that joke? I'd rather owe it to you than no. Yeah, I'd rather owe it to you than cheat you out of it. Remember that one? So you guys see how this is going now. Now, so this is kind of like building the shingles on a roof because those feathers lay over one another in a very certain way. So if I started up here, these feathers overlap like this because, of course, when they're flying, the wind current's coming this way, so the feathers can't go that way for obvious reasons. So when I sculpt these feathers, I have to start from the tail and work my way forward. And what happens a lot of times is you're working on these pieces. If I get, feathers I don't like here, that means I have to erase everything ahead of it and start over there, correct it, and then start again.
Now you should notice why he's sculpting there. His arms are bulging.
Oh,
I mean, if you've ever shaken this man's hand, he's going to bring it to your knees because it takes a lot of energy to do that. You think it's just, I'm just pushing clay around, but it's not. He's molding
It's yeah,
and creating.
I guess it's from. I always used to also be a drywaller, and so I mean that was another job I had that I don't miss. But anyway. Okay. So I got basic shape here of those feathers. Now you see the feathers that are sticking out right there? Yeah, everybody, I'm not scared. Yeah, those are his secondaries, aren't they, Billy?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
stuck on it.
So the secondaries are down in here. They go about halfway into the tail too. So I've got to finish these before I go to the secondaries. But you can see the ulnar radius and the humerus here. Plus, there's a huge, I can't remember the name of this, tarsus? Wherever these feathers are right here, right on the shoulder. What they do is when the wing opens up, it fills that gap between the body, like in their armpit, so that keeps them aerodynamic. Okay. So we're going to be approaching the hour mark. Okay. 3 more minutes to an hour? I'm sorry. All right. Man, this is great. Okay.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give a basic shape to these feathers. And again, I would spend a month on this wing refining it. But this just gives you an idea. Now, the feathers, again, which is kind of weird. Now I said the feathers face this way, right? But if you look at the feathers, if you're thinking the wing's flying this way, here comes the air current. The feathers should lay over here, here, here. But they don't. They lean forward. See the secondaries here? The leading edge of those are forward because the vortex of the wing, the air current comes up over the wing, and they don't. That's how it works. It's really a weird thing. Even the second or primaries are that way. So that means I got to start back here. All right.
Billy, we had a question from the audience on what does Luke eat?
Mice. Mice and rats. Yeah, nice jumbo ones. The juicier the better.
Young animal.
How old is Luke?
There's no real telling, because they get their adult plumage in the first year. So when they come in, there's no way. He came in because he got stuck on a barbed wire fence, and he lost that part of his wing, so he doesn't have the primaries there, so he wouldn't be able to function in the wild.
Where was he found, Billy?
Down in Phoenix.
Oh, really?
Can he fly at all, or do you have to feed him mice?
He can't really fly at all. He can get, maybe 2 feet off the ground and hop on things. The mice are frozen. They come in bags like shrimp. They just defrost them, and then they stick them out there for them. Put them in places. Put them in places so they can find it and have a little bit of fun there.
So are they sauteed with onions or with mushrooms?
No, they don't like onions.
Okay, little Easter egg fun.
Okay, so now I'm ready for secondaries. Okay. Now, this is going to make a lot more sense. So the secondaries, if I can click on the other side here, please. There you go. Thank you. They come halfway down his primaries. Okay, so that's, say, halfway down there. I'm going to do a little bit different. Now all these feathers connect to this ulnar radius. So if I just kind of picture these feathers connecting here, it will keep it more accurate. Now, Mike, one more thing. There's a torch in here. Can you light that up? Now, so there's a disclaimer here with this torch.
Hello.
I live here. So I was working in the gallery one day, and I was working on I think it was an eagle. I had my little torch set up, and you can't see the flame on it. So I leave the piece and forgot about the torch sitting there. And I look over, and I see a guy pointing at a painting with his wife. Look at that, honey. And all of a sudden, poof, a nylon jacket goes up in flames.
Whoa.
The wife is hitting him, screaming. He's trying to get this thing over his head as it's burning. And I'm sitting there in horror, thinking this is a new owner of the gallery. But he was a super cool guy. He was laughing about it. We gave him a little sculpture. I just said, what do you want to name the gallery? This is very low. So anyway, disclaimer, the torch is on. There you go. So now I can heat up. Again, this is wax, so it works really well with heat. I can kind of shape. See? So that's a rough rendition of the second. Now that wing is starting to make a lot more sense. So what I would do is, again, building shingles on a roof, it goes a certain direction. Let's do this one more time. I'll just refine it a little bit more. And they're deeper there than they are on the top. And they're going up to that bone. So that's why the angle of these is what it is. If I made them the same angle as the second with primaries, it wouldn't be accurate. There's another good reason you start with the skeleton. Now, they have, now, so if you just figure, this is very, very true to what we're doing. If this is our hand, this is his hand. The wrist is right here. That's that bony protuberance right there. So if that's his hand, his wrist, it can go up and down, and connected to that is 19 feathers. So he's got 19 fingers, and he can actually fly and move those to the airport he needs. The thumb, they actually have a thumb, believe it or not. It's called the alula on the other side. He's missing it here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Billy doesn't have a thumb, but yeah. So anyway, the cool thing about the alula is the flaps. When they're flying and they're at low speed and they need more uplift, they lift those alula feathers up. And there are 3 of them. They're really pretty feathers. The 3 of them that stick out like that, and they're just very much controlled like a thumb. And also, I read, I don't know if owls are this way, but a lot of migratory birds of prey they think they can detect temperature in that area of their skin to get thermals, to catch thermals.
Well, that's the condors and the
Oh, okay, yeah. So we're going to put his alula feathers in. How's that? So how's our time?
1 hour, 5 minutes.
All right, we're doing it.
Custodian.
Okay.
Monica over there.
Water bottle.
Yeah.
So again, wax doesn't like water. I don't want this to stick, so I'm going to build these feathers right here. Okay, that's a little big, so I'm going to cut it down. There's one Alula feather. Okay, but it needs 3, right? So let's do this. A little bit of water. There's number 2. And number 3. There's his thumb. And so they can control that. And of course, they fan out so they can lift and raise to create more updraft. So now, I just got that roughed in. Given the fact that we would start again from the bottom to the head, let's just say these are refined more than they actually are. So to put the feathers in, I'll start over here. So I need a stunt double. This is some dangerous moves. Mike, all right, Mike. Okay, this is dangerous. This is really dangerous. Take that ball of clay, put it right there, and make a feather. Oh, that's good. I'm sorry. You're good. You're good. You can't touch it anywhere else but there. Now just use your thumb and smooth it on. Smooth it on. Look at that.
Good job.
See? Now you owe me.
I am not worthy.
Yeah, that's right. For working on the piece, huh? So anyway, these feathers would continue all the way up. Then what I would be doing normally is between putting every one of those feathers on, I would be doing the texture. I've got time. Let's try that. I'll show you. All right. A quill, and then texture. A quill, and then texture.
Hey Ken, I think there was a question in the audience that they were amazed at how much you know actually about the muscles and the bones, that you just don't look at something and model it. You know everything underneath and how everything's connected.
Yeah, and you have to, because, I mean, when I'm looking at that, how do you see even bones? I mean, it's hard to even imagine how they lie, but when you've seen them from the inside out, I hate to say, I mean, that's what it was in taxidermy. You kind of envision what's under there, and, you know, it makes a huge difference. And then when you combine that without using a photo, now you have live reference. You can see how they're moving, you can see those joints and so forth. We have another volunteer that will come up and put some feathers on. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so what you're going to do is just take that and don't be shy. Put it here and just go up and smooth. Right there. You're not going to hurt. Up and smooth. Up. There you go. Perfect. See? There you go. Anybody else? Gary, come on, you can do this. With your eyes closed. Just take it to paintbrush. Okay, here you go. There you go. See? So, just take a small marble like this size. And it's just like putting a shingle on a roof. Put it there, and just smooth the top part of it. And you can roll your thumb. Oh yeah, here. Just do this. There you go. Yeah. You can put it right there. Watching this guy. See?
It's perfect.
Look at that. Perfect. Yeah, here's another one.
Amazing.
This is why we don't serve alcohol outside. There you go. Another one right on top of that. Go up about 1/4 of an inch. Just like a shingle on a roof. Perfect. Look at that. He needs to sign it. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. There you go. Anybody else? Since we have time. Okay. Now. So, let's see. Where are we? Let's refine this. Fall asleep.
Oh, yeah.
Questions for Billy. What's the craziest animal you've ever gotten in? I mean, temperament.
Like
the wildest, uncontrollable.
like the hardest thing that I had
Yeah.
so far, out in spring.
Oh, really?
But that was, it was stuck in, what was it, like a lake or a pond up in Flagstaff for 2 days before
Yeah.
it was brought in. So it was almost impossible to get fluids in him and food in him. Just,
And it's a big bird.
yeah, it was, that was probably the hardest one that I've had so far. Really? Situation.
How large was it?
Maybe twice the size, his size and a half again.
So do a lot of wildlife rehab centers kind of specialize in certain types of animals, like deer?
So like here in the state of Arizona, you're not legally allowed to take in deer unless the Game and Fish owns it to you.
Even as a wildlife rehab center?
Even as a wildlife rehab center, because they're not releasable. Once they're brought in, they're not releasable.
Oh.
And it holds true also with mountain lions. Mountain lions, the general public are not allowed to bring in. It has to go through the Game and Fish department.
Yeah.
But it is like rehabbers, you have to, each animal that you do is an extra 100 hours of education. So
Really?
So yeah,
Every species?
For every species that you do. So we do all the everything from hummers up to eagles to Mexican spotted owls, and then we also do all the mammals.
Yeah.
We just don't touch bats. You know, there's people who do bats, but that's all they do.
Okay.
You know, it just depends on the facility. There's certain facilities, like in Phoenix, that just do hawks.
And is it Liberty that does a lot of eagles?
Liberty does a lot of eagles. They've kind of expanded over the years. I'm not sure all of what they do now, but I think they're doing the birds, all different kinds of birds, and then small mammals. And then you still go to Southwest Wildlife for the big mammals.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a lot of deer. In fact, they released a deer, a little doe. This is 20 some odd years ago. They released one probably before it was illegal to do so. I'm not sure, but it was over by the Cleator area. And one of the Jeep tour companies in the area called Game and Fish and said, "We've got a deer that keeps following the Jeep and begging for potato chips." So that may have been one reason they started that law.
Well, that and wasting disease.
Wasting, that's right, chronic wasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the success rate is super low for releasing deer. There's facilities in Virginia that do it, and by law you have to, if you take them in, let's say you have a baby come in, let's say in August, you have to release them before December, the end of December that year.
Why is that?
It's just the law. So the success rate is like 0.00009. Wow. It's really, really low, and there's a lot of work to it to get them out.
Yeah.
You know, plus, they stay with the parents for up to 3 years.
Yeah, that's true. So how are we doing on the time?
15 minutes.
Wow.
You're almost done,
Okay, so I'm going to do a beakectomy. That's this.
A beakectomy, I love it.
If people only knew what we do to alter these pieces. Okay, so I want to raise that beak up over to here. So I'm going to cut. Just like that. Now, instead of having to resculpt that forehead, all I have to do now is fill in what I just cut. So your little ring-tailed cat, he heard some noise one night, or he went out there because there was a storm, and you found him in their enclosure clinging to the ceiling.
Yeah,
Playing.
they were running around on the ceiling. I wanted to see what they were doing in the middle of the night. You know, during the day, they sleep the whole day. You don't see them do anything. But they're quite active at night.
Will they be able to be released?
No. They call them minor cats because they get imprinted and habituated very easily. The miners used to have them here in Arizona, and they used to take care of all the mice that were around the mines.
Yeah.
And they found that within like a 40-acre area.
Somebody's got to do it.
My cat's free.
What? Because there were that many mice.
Yeah, evidently, and they were well taken care of.
Yeah.
So Ken, how long normally would this sculpture take you?
3 months. If it were to be a finished piece, it'd be 3 months.
Hi there.
That's my stepson's name.
Oh, is it really?
He's nicer than
Funny to name your son after a stepson.
I was not able to step up. But anyway,
Any more volunteers for some dangerous moves? No hands. Pete, come up here.
There you
gotta
go.
do this.
Don't want a mountain biker up here.
Yes.
It'll end up on the ground.
All right. So what I want you to do is put some feathers like this, about that big, and you're gonna go like that, and you're gonna go above that, like that, and then above that, like that. All with little marbles. Then you just hit right there. And you smooth it as you smear it. You smooth it closer to the animal. There you go. There you go. And then another one. Uh-huh. There you go. Look at that. Thank you, bud. I'm not a city councilman, by the way. Confirming. Is Brian here?
No, he's not.
Oh, okay.
Well,
All
Bob.
right. 10 minutes. Wow. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Man. Okay.
You two could be a junior sculptor for just $99.95.
That's right. Any questions? Gotta have questions. Come on.
What happens after this?
Oh, good question. Okay, so the lost wax process. How many know what that is for the razor blades? Okay. All right. So when I'm done with this, I would give it to a foundry, and they make a rubber mold of it. As I was saying earlier, they can't make a rubber mold. Let's just say the feet, the legs, everything is on there. They make a 2/2 mold, but there's so many undercuts they can't get the mold off. So they have to cut. They have to cut the wing off as a separate panel. They have to cut the legs off as a separate panel, and maybe even the tail as a separate panel. So they destroyed your original because they cut your armature that's holding it up. You have to really trust these foundries. They're amazing artists. They really are. So now you have a negative impression of your original, like a dentist would do an impression of your mouth, right? Just as a negative. They then pour molten wax into that mold. It cools and hardens, and now you have a positive replica of your original in wax. They dip that positive into a liquid ceramic, which is like a plaster Paris. So it coats and encases that wax replica. When it hardens like stone, they then heat it up. The wax now melts out of that ceramic, leaving a negative that they pour the bronze into. Then when the bronze cools, they bust that ceramic off, and there's your bronze part inside. But now the work begins because you have to weld all these parts back together, right through all my texture. They're going to be putting welds through wherever they have to do it. And then they're going to grind the welds to match my texture where you cannot tell what a weld's for. So they're amazing. They do work I couldn't do. I trust them. I'm there to inspect it, but if they said, "Here, Ken, weld that wing on," I couldn't do it. You know, they're just so good at it. So it's a collaboration with many artists. And then the patina, the coloration, can vary, like Josh Toby's pieces that look like stone, or something traditional like mine, just by the acid that they're using to color the bronze. The last stage they do, so very, very involved.
We love you, Ken.
Thank you.
You're beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank all of you. What a nice turnout. Wow, this is awesome.
What do you expect with somebody?
You only bring the very best.
Come and see your wolf.
Yeah, the running wolf.
Gorgeous.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. You too.
And how much did you pay her?
Yeah.
All the different molding. It seems like everything's diluted a little bit.
You would think. They say there's a 1% degradation in texture. That's all. The mold material is designed to pick up finite detail. And so purposely, when I sculpt a piece, I leave my fingerprints in it, and it will cast in bronze. I'll show you some pieces inside. My fingerprints are all over it. That's how good they are. I'll pick up all that definition. Yeah. How's our time?
5.5 seconds.
That was awesome. Thank you, Billy.
Let's hear it for Luke and Billy. Billy from the Runnin W Wildlife Center. Please donate if you can. Come on up here.
It's buzzing.
Yes,
It's
it is
buzzing.
buzzing. Sorry. That was a glass of wine I had 3 minutes ago. So.
And actually,
If you have any questions, I think this thing's giving up to go. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll be moving into the gallery. We have wine, finger food, or whatever. Don't be shy.
and don't forget to go in and check out If Walls Can Talk. It's in the tree room.
That's the Barnell I did a number of years ago that will benefit Billy for everyone we sell.
Once again, a round of applause for
I know
Ken
last time they.
and Luke and Billy.
Thank you.